You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Wow. Joining us on the line now is our guest of the week, our first guest of 2011. Wow, I can't believe it's 2011 already. Guy who joined us for the first time back in 2005. On the line right now is Vance Archer, Lance Hoyt. Lance, how you doing today?
I'm good, guys. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great, man. It's great to have you on again.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on. I definitely appreciate it.
Well, I guess the first question we got to ask you is how you doing since departing from the WWE?
Man, I'm doing fine. I've been spending a lot of good time with my family and friends, getting back into the groove of things, being back home in Dallas. So everything's been good, man. Just moving forward, doing what I got to do to get things back on track and get myself back in the limelight.
Very cool, very cool. Now, the last time we talked to you was 2005. You were just starting to break out on your own. The fans were starting to chant Hoyt, Hoyt, Hoyt in the crowd, and it was just starting to catch on. And, you know, you've gone through a few metamorphoses since then, you know, Lance Rock, and then you left TNA. I guess what I want to find out from you is, did you leave TNA on good terms?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I still have a lot of good friends in TNA. The people that are in charge, the powers that be, whatever you want to call them, you know, everything left on good terms. Business is business sometimes, you know, unfortunately, sometimes business is not handled the right way, but everything that I've dealt with so far in the business, regardless of whether I like the situation or not, was handled in a professional manner and everything, and everybody left, you know, on good notes, on good terms.
So the door was left open for a possible return?
Who knows, man? You know, in this business, it never seems like any door is completely closed. And even when people say it's completely closed, there seems to be a crack in something somewhere, and somebody gets in. So, you know, you never know what's going to happen, where you're going to go, who you're going to end up with, and so, you know, there's even when bad things happen, the door's never completely closed. Who knows?
Very cool.
Well, if Sable and Bret Hart could wind up back in the WWE after everything that happened with them, I think it's safe to say anything can truly happen in this business.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what happens and where it's been, you know, somehow if you find your way back in, whatever crack in the hallway you can find, you can get there.
There you go. Now, I do want to ask you an interesting question because Awesome Kong has just signed a WWE contract, and rumors are she might be going to FCW, and I guess the question I have for you is you've been in wrestling for quite a few years now. I think 2001 you debuted, is that right?
For who?
Just in general.
Actually in 2000.
2000, okay.
Very part, yeah.
So by the time you got to FCW, you were not a veteran, but you've been in it for 8-9 years by that point. What exactly do they teach you in FCW? Do they teach you a WWE style, or what is it? Or is it them really reviewing your style, or what happens in FCW?
FCW really is a great place, depending on where you're at, what your level is, what really needs to be done. You know, the guys that are running it, Dr. Tom Pritchard, Norman Smiley, Steve Kern, all those guys, you know, if you're in the position I was in, it's really just a polishing system. It's just a buffering system. It's kind of, you know, WWE has a mentality, it has a style, it has a way they like their guys to work and to be presented, and that's what FCW can provide for the guys who have experience in the business. It's not necessarily learning how to wrestle or anything like that. It's just learning how to work for WWE because they definitely have their own unique style in comparison to really any other professional wrestling or sports entertainment in this business today. And if you're a guy that's never touched the ring, which they have a lot of those guys, you know, they'll sign guys who they think have potential to be in the business, who have never been wrestlers before, and start them from the ground up. And, you know, again, for those guys, FCW is an amazing place because you're working with guys who have high calibers of working abilities and skills and things like that. And then I didn't mean to leave him out, but Dusty Rhodes, you know, he's right there with you and he runs it and helps you learn how to present yourself and to talk and to do the things that are extremely necessary as far as WWE is concerned. So, you know, if you're just starting out in the business, it's an amazing, amazing place for somebody to get their feet wet in this business. And if you were like somebody like me who's just trying to learn how to work for WWE, it's a great place to be polished off.
And was there a lot to learn? I mean, was there a lot to pick up on that like subtleties that us fans would never figure out?
I would imagine so, yeah, man. Like I said, it is definitely a different mentality. It's a different style. there's things that, you know, WWE wants to see within the realm of all their entertainment that is on television, whether it's, you know, promos, backstage, in-ring, your working style, the things that you do, how you present yourself. I mean, there's so many elements because WWE really has turned themselves into an entertainment company.
Right.
I think it's part of the reason they call themselves sports entertainment now. So they're looking at all aspects, whereas, you know, I think on the independents, it's really more focused on the wrestling. And, you know, TNA is a wrestling company. They have some amazingly talented wrestlers there. AJ Styles, Frankie Kazarian, you know, guys like that who just, you know, you put them in the ring, they're going to blow you out of the water each and every time they wrestle. So WWE just has that style. So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely a place and a time to learn how to be a WWE wrestler or sports entertainer.
Very cool. Now, I have to throw back a quote that you gave me on our last interview, and I was asking you if you ever had hopes of going to WWE, and you said that you weren't sure because you didn't have the Batista body that they seemed to like at the time. You know, did that come into play? Was there any kind of concern about that when you did finally sign the dotted line and go to the WWE?
No, because I think the business has changed a little bit as well. You know, I mean, WWE's wellness policy is in full effect, whether people want to believe it or not. Dave, who is an extremely cool cat, you know, and I said that at a time when I didn't know him. You know, I know the person now, and I know how hard he works to look like he does, and the things that, you know, he's able to do in the gym just to get himself in that shape. And it never really was an issue because, you know, size-wise, height-wise, I was right there with all their top dogs on a physical level, on a visual level. So that never even became a problem, I don't believe.
Very cool. Very cool.
All right, one thing I wanted to ask you about is that in both TNA and WWE, you seem to work a lot in tag teams and, you know, with various different partners. With all your experience in tag team wrestling, is it something that you enjoy doing, that you feel that you're very good at, and would you be open to continuing doing that if you go back to TNA or WWE?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always enjoyed working tag teams. I wish that there had been a little more focus, like when Kurt Hawkins and I were working together on the tag team division, but it is what it is, and you can only do what you can do and what you're allowed to do at different times. So I always enjoyed in the tag team division a lot. And, you know, I had a lot of fun and a lot of success while I was at TNA, Kid Cash, and even Jimmy Rave. And I think the Rock and Rave Infection could have been a lot bigger and a lot stronger than it was. If given the right opportunity, which that's what this business is about. It's about opportunity. If you're given the right opportunity, I think you can flourish and succeed beyond all, you know, expectations. But, you know, I really enjoyed working in tag teams, and if, you know, another opportunity to work in a good, strong tag team came about, I'd jump at it for sure.
What was more your motivation? Go ahead, Pat. You were about to ask the exact same thing I was. Go ahead.
You know, what was the inspiration for the Rock and Rave Infection? Because whenever I watched it, I always got kind of a Bill and Ted type of vibe from it, and I thought it was kind of funny.
I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever spoken to Jimmy, but we just had fun with it. That was the main thing. You know, I mean, he and I actually were put together as a tag team before the whole real Rock and Rave Infection came about. You know, we had the name, we had the group. It was Jimmy, I, and Christy, and, you know, we were kind of our own elements. And then, you know, we kind of got presented one day with the idea of the Guitar Hero situation. And, you know, at first it was one of those things where you're told about situations, you're told about things, and you're like, oh, what's this going to do to my career and business? And you don't know. And then, you know, we kind of said, hey, how much freedom do we have here? And they're like, do whatever you want, have fun with it. So we're like, all right. You know, and I had the mentality of kind of having the Slash visual with the hat and the things like that.
Yeah.
You know, they let us do the tattered jeans and the, you know, Jimmy ultimately donned kind of the, you know, the 80s rock with the crazy bright colored tights, and Christy Hemme just always was, you know, super rock star chick, and, you know, like I said, myself with the Slash guitar crazy guy and whatnot. We had a lot of fun and a lot of freedom with it. And, you know, I think that's what made us enjoy what we were getting to do when we were getting to do it. And I know when we first started doing that, we were used a lot, you know, working with LAX and the machine guns and stuff like that. And we were having some really good matches and having some good shows. And, you know, but the business is what it is, and they decided to go in different directions. And unfortunately, Jimmy and I and the Rock and Rave Infection was not the main focus. You know, you can't get mad at it. Like I said, it's just business, and that happens. you can only do what you can do with what you are given. So we had a lot of fun. We'd hoped it would have been bigger and better, and who knows?
Yeah. And no, we never did have Jimmy Rave on the show. I think I called him back in 2003 or something like that. He was just getting started, and I think I called him at his parents' house. So,
well, he's a good guy. You guys should have him on sometime.
I hope to. I hope I can someday. Well, I guess we got to ask you a little bit about WWE, and when they brought you in to ECW, and you were getting a bit of a push, beating Tommy Dreamer and all that. And was there any promises made, or was it all just kind of a go week to week kind of thing?
No major promises made, man. Just premise for an opportunity, which really that opportunity came out of left field. I had no idea what was going on. I got a call saying that I needed to be at television that week. I showed up, and I really didn't understand what was happening till that day when I got there for television. And it's funny because even 5 minutes before the doors opened, I had a completely different image as to what was actually presented as Vance Archer on ECW. And it was just a chance. And the one thing, people, they knock ECW and they didn't like what it was and things like that. And but to me, and for guys like me, I mean, you got to look at like Jack Swagger, Sheamus, guys who kind of started doing the exact same thing I was doing when I debuted on ECW, and they were kind of doing the same things. And as they grew in character and time with the company, then that's when they branched on to the other programs and continued to flourish. I think, unfortunately for myself, ECW was cut short. But it was a great time. It was a great opportunity, and it was just that's exactly what it was. No major promises, but just an opportunity to be on television and start to build on something. I think if I'd have been given more time in that direction, a lot more would have come out of it. But unfortunately, ECW shut down, and then I was added to the SmackDown roster, and then things went where they went.
Yeah. Well, it's just such a huge roster, and I guess it's kind of a with a lot of the veterans that are there, it must be kind of a hard deck to break into.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. There's so many good talents within WWE, and when ECW shut down, and now you take 20 extra guys, split them up between Raw and SmackDown, and you add 10 extra guys to an already very thick roster of SmackDown and Raw, it gets hard. Time is precious, and there's only so much that can be put out there. That's why I think even now you see a lot of the guys who are on Raw or SmackDown rosters that you don't see very often on those shows. You see a lot of them on Superstars. Yeah. Even though Superstars isn't what ECW was, it's kind of taken that on as the place for the younger talent, the guys who are coming up, the guys who are going to be those Superstars, really, sharpening their teeth.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned Guitar Hero a few minutes ago, and I do have to ask you about this, even though it might not be exactly the same thing, is you're in the new WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 video game, and I got to think that's kind of cool to be able to see yourself on the screen.
Super cool, man. It's kind of crazy. I had no idea that they were even doing the roster announcement when they did it. And then, I started receiving tweets and things like that, and they're like, hey, congratulations. And I was like, what? I am? That's super cool. I had no idea, and it was really kind of cool. And I didn't even get to play the game until several months after, or not several months, but probably a good month and a half, 2 months after it come out before I actually even got to play the game.
And did they do you justice?
I think they did great. It's amazing the technology, as to where it is now, where it was, and it's scary to think of where it's going to be, in the future as far as the visual effects. If you watch the game now in comparison to what it was, I think now, like, you start a match, and you're working a match for a long time, you're wrestling, you're fighting, you're doing your thing. As the match goes on, if you have a fight, the guy will start bleeding, he'll start sweating, he'll start looking different, just like he's had more worse for wear for working or wrestling a match for the whole time frame, which I think is crazy to think that that's all just in a video game.
Exactly, yeah. It's the realism has come a long way since the days of the Hulk Hogan one with WrestleMania, the arcade game, or whatever it was back in NES days.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I'll let you go in just a few minutes, but I do want to ask you a little bit about the change in look. We talked about, the Rock and Rave connection and the long hair and the Slash look and all that. And when you debuted in WWE, even though in FCW you still had kind of that rocker look, they kind of trimmed your hair down, gave you new attire and all that. Was that your doing or their decision?
The the hair and all that stuff was completely their decision. Like I said, literally 5 minutes before the doors opened, my hair was still down to the middle of my back, and I had a different, beard on my face, and, I was rocking a different look. I'm more of a, hardcore biker look, to say the least, and a lot of it was pulled off of me. And the reason given was fine, and it was, we're breaking it down to build it back up. That was what was said to me. And I was fine with that, at the time. It didn't bother me. I think I needed to change an image so that people could accept me more as Vance Archer of WWE than what they'd ever seen in the past. And so I thought it was a good change. I had no problem with it, and I took it, I did it, I used it, and I owned it, and moved forward with it. And that's all you can do. I think, sometimes people get too caught up in an image, too caught up in this is what they have to be. I mean, look at The Undertaker. When he cut his hair, everybody was like, oh, my God, you can't do that. And why? He's The Undertaker. He rocked it. He was, the Undertaker he wanted to be, and he was as badass as he ever was. And, he kept on moving. I think it's funny when people get so caught up on an image and they have to be a certain way. Guys like to look certain ways, obviously, but, to change your image, I think it's just how you choose to accept it as to how it goes.
I love how the rumor mill gets started, too, because like when Nova went to WWE, everybody said, oh, they made him cut his hair because Triple H said he looked too much like him. And, of course, that wasn't true at all, but,
Well, the one rumor I enjoyed reading about on the Internet and things like that, in which I laugh about the Internet sometimes, because everybody reads it, regardless if they say they do or they don't. They read it, and I do as well. And when I first took on the name Vance Archer, which actually has meaning to myself, people were putting on the Internet that I was going to be a Robin Hood gimmick, and I thought that was the funniest thing in the world because of the name Archer. They thought, oh, I'm going to come out in green tights and a little felt hat and have a bow and arrow with me and shoot at people. I was like, what are people thinking? That they would put this on the Internet and it would spread like wildfire, like people actually believed it. I was like, that is the most retarded thing in the world. Excuse my language.
No problem at all. What does this special meaning have to you, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I mean, Vance is obviously a play on my real name, Lance, and Archer is my father's name.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Well, you mentioned the Internet, and I have to ask this then, because, the rumors go nuts on the Internet, and paranoia reigns supreme. Yeah, and, I lost my train of thought, yeah. Normally when a former TNA guy, goes over to the WWE, everybody starts speculating that he's going to get underpushed and he's going to get thrown to the wayside. Did you have any apprehension about going to the WWE knowing that you had such a long run with TNA?
No, not at all. I mean, I think the route I chose to take for what I had done in the business and what I needed to do and where I needed to go, choosing to go to FCW and be a part of that and learn what WWE wanted from me and things like that, I think it was good for me. It put me in a light where they said, okay, this guy is here to work for this company. He wants to be a part of WWE. And that's what I was doing. And there was never any animosity. It was never brought up in a negative connotation to me or about me or for me or anything like that. So, I had no qualms about going where I had to go and doing what I had to do. And I never had an issue. No one ever brought it up. And, if it was an issue to anybody, it was an issue that was kept behind doors and talked amongst themselves, and no one said it to me. So, I never worried about it. And, like I said, things went the way they went just because that's how the business goes sometimes.
Now, you've headed to Japan and did all Japan Pro Wrestling for a short stint. And question is, I guess, would you consider heading back to Japan? Because it seems like that would be kind of your style a little bit over there.
Oh, yeah, man. I'm actually, in conversations right now with people and talking to who I need to talk to and trying to get things, in the right direction. Even the Japanese market is down. Just like everywhere else, just like the economy is in every market in every sense.
How bad is it? Is it taking the beating that the American market is, though?
Yeah, absolutely. The major companies still are there and still exist, but, I think the day when guys could go and live and work in Japan and make just ridiculously good money, and they could go live in Japan for 6 months or 3 months or whatever the case may be, and make enough money to live for the years that they come back to the States and work however they needed to work and get themselves and their name back out there, that doesn't exist anymore. If you're going to Japan, you're going for, good money for the sense that you're traveling halfway around the world, but the money you're going to make isn't going to sustain you for another 6 months past the time that you get home. You know, it's nothing what it used to be. So yeah, most definitely, you know, and they're being much more careful on who they book and how long they book and how much they pay somebody while they're part of their organization, you know, in Japan, you know, and they're trying to budget themselves as well, just like here in the United States, just like WWE, just like TNA, just like Ring of Honor, just like any independent organization that is out there. The economy around the world, I think, has truly been affected, and unfortunately for wrestling, because of that fact, it's suffering too.
Very cool. Alrighty, man. So I guess the annoying question that we end all interviews with is, where do you see yourself in the next couple of years?
Where do I see myself in the next couple of years, man? Right now, my plan is to keep pushing forward. My plan is to keep wrestling. You know, I've already done a couple dates here in Texas, and I have some more coming up. In fact, this weekend I'll be doing NWA Southwest in Robstown, Texas, and then I'll be doing RCW River City Wrestling. I've
seen their shows. They're pretty good company.
Which one?
RCW.
Yeah, absolutely. Then I'll be doing their show on Saturday in San Antonio. Mm-hmm. And then I have more stuff coming up. The company called TCW at the end of the month in Tyler, Texas. Another one in Athens, Texas called Wrecking Ball. Just a lot of the independents in Texas and whatnot, and starting to work myself back out into the national market. Like I said, starting to work myself back out into the international market, trying to get over to the UK. Like I said, trying to get back into Japan. And things like that. So as of right now, the plan is to keep moving forward. And, you know, like I said, no door has been completely closed on me, and if a door is even cracked when I get there, I'll kick it open and take things over.
Very cool, man. Well, if you ever need any help promoting anything, just give us a call or give us an email, and I'll be glad to post any kind of press release or anything you need.
I appreciate it, man, definitely. And I appreciate you guys having me on again. It's been too long.
Anytime you want to come on, you're welcome to. I do want to leave you with this thought.
Go ahead.
Okay, I did a backflip into the pool, and my son, who is 9, was trying to figure out how to do it, and he kept just doing back flops onto his back and getting his back beat right. And I said, I remember Lance Hoyt told me that wherever your head goes, your body will follow. So I told him how to do it, and he got it down. So
did he get it?
He got it.
That's how it works. It's funny because people are always like, how do you do moonsaults? And I'm like, easy. I just try to look for my feet behind my back, and, you know, like I said, where your head goes, your body will follow. And if you try to do that backflip, that moonsault, whatever you're trying to do, and you look up while you're doing it, your body's going to stall. But if you just keep looking backwards, you'll keep going.
There you go. All right. Thanks, man. I really appreciate your time. And anything else you guys want to say, Lance?
No, thank you very much for the time. It was very great. A lot of fun. Loved having you on.
Thanks, guys, and I appreciate it. And just let everybody know if there's anybody out there listening that would like to book me for shows, they can check me out at lancehoyt@yahoo.com, or they can follow me on twitter.com/lancehoyt.
Very cool. And we'll be sure and post a link to your Twitter account so they can get a hold of your user and your email address as well.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much. That was Lance Hoyt, formerly of WWE and TNA fame, and we can't thank you enough. And in just a few seconds here, guys, we're going to be talking about some of the wrestling action from this week, including recap of Raw and a preview of the upcoming pay-per-view. So thanks a lot, Lance, and I'll be right back with you guys. Hold on one sec.
All righty.
All right.
So, Nick, how are you doing?
That was great, man. All right. Thank you. I just hung up with Lance. Lance just got off the line, so we're good to go, guys. What'd you guys think?
Great interview.
Really enjoyed it. Yeah, very cool, mellow guy.
All right, man. Yeah, I was very happy with it. I'm very happy with it, indeed. He's just a nice guy. He was a good, nice guy last time, just mellow. You know, kind of getting your feet wet back with the interviews again. So sometimes you want to do the radio voice, and then you're thinking, well, he reacts more when you're more human. And you just got to, when you're doing the interviews, you got to get your feet back wet, I think, when you haven't done one in a little while. I think Tony Atlas was our last one, so we've been a little while out of the action. Yeah, we've been a while. We got stood up by that fat-ass Axel Rotten, so that kind of burnt me out on dealing with people for a little while, but here we are.
Which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, James is still pissed off about that Axel Rotten interview. He even posted on Axel's Facebook, "Don't book him, he no-shows."
And a follow-up to that story is that he now did not block me from viewing his page, but he has now prevented me from posting any comments on his page because of things like that.
That's hilarious.
I think I was more sarcastic with it, like, if you book him, just be sure he shows up or something like that, things like that. So
don't pay him in advance.
Yeah, things like I got pretty sarcastic. I posted at least 2 or 3, snarling things to where he sent me all a pissy message saying, "Oh, why are you doing this to me?" I'm like, dude, I don't have a problem with you. I've told you for the longest time, I watched you in when you were, nobody remembers this, in WCW, and when you were in Global. I know all about your career. I'm actually a fan. I'm just pissed off that you stood me up, and then when I asked you, why'd you stand me up, you said, I have my reasons. Don't give me that shit. Tell me what the reason is. You're doing me a favor by doing the interview in the first place, so, I don't mind, but I'd rather you just say no than stand me up. That's just my, etiquette.
Yeah.
Anyway.
At least you have a legit reason to dislike him, unlike your reasons for disliking New Orleans.
I don't dislike New Orleans. Everybody thinks I dislike it. I just don't like the media hype. You see, a lot of times it's not my dislike of the actual thing, it's my dislike of the reaction to it. It's like Ring of Honor. Everybody's like, oh, why do you hate Ring of Honor? I don't. I hate Ring of Honor fans because they're just so freaking, what would be the word, condescending?
Overzealous?
Condescending, yeah. Condescending works, overzealous works. It's however, I fully realize and recognize that my hatred of Seattle is 100% and asinine and ridiculous. I admit this, I accept this, but I'm not changing it.
I hope they go all the way. I think that would be the greatest thing ever. If a 7-9 team won the Super Bowl.
See, well, you say that, but then guess what happens? That shows that there's no reason to have 16 weeks of football. That shows that we should just pick teams out of a hat. We can have any of those teams play for the playoffs. Because basically
they won the games that they needed to win.
Yeah, still a bad team.
They really aren't that good of a team. I mean, that division is so palsified. It's just such a crappy division to be in that, I guess the record speaks for itself and nothing else really has to be said.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you say that you hate remakes and you hate Hollywood, and you can argue a blue and white, until your face turns blue, and then you just have to say the words True Grit, and people are like, oh, okay.
That looked really good.
Yeah, it did when John Wayne was in it.
Here we go.
As far as remakes go, I don't have a problem with a remake if A, it's done well, which this one looks like it is, and B, if it isn't just a cheap carbon copy. Like, I hope I'm explaining myself. Like, if you're able to update it in some way that's acceptable, then I will probably enjoy it.
All right, let me ask you this then. Say, John, whatever the hell his name is, Zac Efron, right, was going to be the new Marty McFly, and they remake Back to the Future.
Oh, no, it's going to be Justin Bieber.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
That was the rumor. And my whole thing is, if you're going to remake Back to the Future, which I don't think is necessary at this point in time, it's not, True Grit is what, 40, 50 years old?
I think it was made in 59. I could be wrong about that. I'm not 100% on that, but I think it was 59.
All right, 50 years. Back to the Future,
85.
25 years old. Right, so it's kind of like, do we really need it now? It's still kind of fresh. And if they do it now, I would think that they would do it and restructure the story in a way to where the kid goes back in time to the 80s rather than going back in time to the 50s.
Or why don't they just do a similar story and not make a complete remake?
Because then
they kind of did it. It's called Hot Tub Time Machine.
Good point.
Which is actually pretty funny, by the way.
It looked funny. I never saw it. Everybody else was hating on it, saying, oh, it's so stupid. But it looked funny to me.
It was funny. I thought it was funny.
What the hell are we talking about?
I don't know.
Well, so I think we should start, if we're going to get into the wrestling discussion, I think we should talk about, ladies and gentlemen, that wonderful Royal Rumble title match between John Morrison and The Miz. I mean,
that got blown off on Raw.
Very huge risk. I mean, I cannot believe they made the Royal Rumble up a couple weeks, but what an amazing match. Everyone that bought that pay-per-view is going to think, wow, John Morrison is a star. Oh, wait, it was Monday Night Raw, and 2 hours later, Randy Orton was number one contender again.
Which is such bullshit. I mean, and it's nothing against Orton. It's nothing against Miz. It's whatever. And first of all, let me say that the match that Morrison and Miz had was awesome. I mean, that was a great match, and I'm going to put that over. That was a hell of a match.
That was a great match, and I'm not a fan of Miz, but I thought it was a great match.
Yeah, I felt cheated when the match was over, because it's kind of like, this should have been the pay-per-view match. Why wasn't it? Why did we spend so much TV time hyping up a feud between Miz and Jerry Lawler, and why is Randy Orton back in the title picture now? They had a chance to do a really good world title match to kind of establish Morrison in that role, and they didn't do it. And the only reason I can come up with for why they would do that is if Morrison wins the Royal Rumble, which, if that was their plan, then he shouldn't have gotten this world title shot in the first place.
Right. Well, the problem is, and I keep going back to this, the current people running the WWE almost get, just scared out of their mind about the idea of new people in the main event completely. I mean, it's almost like, oh, man, we have Miz as world champion. This is new. Oh, I'm so scared. Morrison, no. Morrison's never been in the main event. Morrison, we don't know if he's going to draw. We don't know if he's going to draw. We don't know if he can hang it. We don't know if he's going to hang it. So we're just going to put it on Raw. We're going to put Orton because we know Orton's a draw. Orton's been world champion like 6 times. I mean, that's how they are. They get this weird panic about it. And they throw in, hey, I like Randy Orton, but it's, he's been, in the main event picture a long time now, and he's become very stale. I mean, and he's not as bad as some people, but it's like there was an opportunity here to make John Morrison a true main eventer. And I honestly believe now that opportunity has been missed because, you know what, he didn't get the shot at the pay-per-view. The next couple weeks will not be about John Morrison. He literally is back where he was before the Sheamus feud started. A talented young man with no real program, no real feud, and no plan for the future on the creative team's behalf.
Now, I don't think anybody went into this Monday. I don't think anybody went into Monday night thinking that he was going to leave with the world title. I mean, I didn't. I was hoping that they might surprise me, but I don't think anybody really thought that he was going to be world champion at the end of the evening.
I agree.
Do you agree?
I agree. I mean, I was hoping when they announced that, I said, okay, best case scenario is they cheat us out of the title match. Oh, it's a screw job finish in the HAL 9000 orders a rematch at Rumble. So we don't even get that.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, what can you say? You give Morrison the number one contendership, and it was just an opportunity that was completely squandered in every way, shape, and form, and it's disappointing. And then you look over at the SmackDown side of things. Edge and Kane are having, spoiler alert for those of you who haven't read, we have Kane and Edge for the World Heavyweight title this week, again, which, oh boy, I really want to watch that. Edge wins, and his new number one contender is decided.
Yeah.
Get ready for this. Dolph Ziggler.
Now,
it's going to be Dolph Ziggler versus Edge at the Royal Rumble.
You know what?
Hold on. No, let's stop. Hold on. Before we do what we're about to do, and I will let Nick speak because I'm not trying to be a bully here, but isn't that what we're saying about Morrison? That, they wouldn't put Morrison in the main event because they don't know if he'll draw, yet now we're unsure about the Edge versus Ziggler match for the very same reason.
Well,
what we're saying is it's all about the booking. That's what it is. It's all about the booking and establishing these guys. If they had built up Ziggler over the period of time, over like the last 2 or 3 months or so, I would buy this. And I love Ziggler as a talent. The problem is, though, he's been IC champion kind of in limbo. He loses the belt on SmackDown, loses 2 matches to Kofi Kingston on SmackDown this week because he demands a rematch and loses both of them. And then he just gets randomly put into the WWE title picture. And it's just so random and lazy and haphazard, it's almost screwing the talent over because it's putting him into a position that his character isn't completely ready for, to a point where it's believable that he would be in that spot.
Right, well, I actually kind of saying is that, hey, on the one hand, I'm happy Dolph Ziggler is getting this opportunity, but, as Patrick just pointed out, he hasn't been built up at all. If anything, he's a lackey to Vicky Guerrero. I mean, he's the guy that goes out there and gets beat up when someone makes fun of Vicky, and they haven't, and we just saw how bad they booked Morrison. I fully expect the weeks leading up to the Rumble is going to be Edge spearing him every single week, and going into the Rumble, it's going to be like, oh, but how's Vicky going to affect this main event? I mean, maybe we'll get lucky and Ziggler will have such an impressive match with Edge, which, is possible because they're 2 very talented guys. The WWE will be like, wow, this guy is great. But, the problem is I just see him being, it's another stepping stone. I could very well also see Kane getting added to this match. I could see Kane, interfering, and that leads to Edge and Kane at WrestleMania. Heaven fucking forbid, but we just saw how badly they blew the opportunity to build up John Morrison. I don't have the confidence in the WWE creative team to realize their mistakes and build up Dolph Ziggler the next couple weeks in a much better way. That's my bigger problem with so many things the WWE does, where when they start to do something, I just don't have the confidence in them to do it right and finish it off the way it should be finished. Once again, I absolutely love Dolph Ziggler as a talent, but the problem is that talent is in the hands of a bunch of monkeys with crayons.
Well, let's look at the last few quote-unquote stars that they've tried to make. You have Sheamus, who is a really good talent. I think I've come to really like him, but they put him in the title picture with absolutely no build-up at all whatsoever, and it was him winning the belt was the most random thing ever. Swagger, he's a jobber for a year, wins Money in the Bank. I'm like, okay, they could use that victory to kind of build him up. No, he wins the belt 2 nights later. Miz, he dropped the U.S. title to Bret Hart, which was probably the worst decision I've seen in the last year. That was awful.
Who ended up beating Bret to the belt, or did he just vacate it?
Nobody. He just forfeited it.
Oh.
I think it was he gave it up, and then R-Truth and Miz had a match to determine the new champion.
But yeah, this is how they build. This is their idea of building people up.
Well, that's the problem, though. You mentioned Sheamus. You mentioned Sheamus, and I actually agree. Sheamus has kind of grown into a all-around decent performer, a pretty good performer. But the problem is, he's already been to the mountaintop.
Right.
I kind of feel like that the end of the story's already been written, and now it's kind of like just going on and on and on. It's just, I don't know. It seems like they put the belt on guys.
I was at a message board talking about Sheamus with somebody, and this guy said to me, this poster, he said, I think Sheamus is really developing nicely into a superstar for the WWE. And that to me there's so many problems with that, because look, he's a 2-time champion. Shouldn't he be ready, or shouldn't he already be ready? The fact that we're still talking about him growing and developing to me is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, so many of them. Miz is still fine-tuning himself, and I think, if he showed me anything over the past few years, I think he showed me more on Monday than I've ever seen from him. He's, developing, and he's world champion, and it just seems like the belt should not be a prop to give credibility to a character on its way up. I mean, that's what secondary belts is for, not the world title.
Absolutely, and that points out another huge problem in the WWE. The secondary titles don't mean anything. I mean, Miz won the U.S. title numerous times, but for the most part, he never really got, anything out of it. There was never like a really big, storyline over the U.S. title. It was just, oh, Miz has it now. Miz comes out, goes, I'm the U.S. champion, and I'm awesome! Out comes his random opponent of the week. Miz cheats to keep the belt. Story goes on. New random opponent next week. Same old, I'm awesome. That's a huge problem. There isn't any build to these guys. The only titles they ever seem to put any real thought into are the world titles. And then you have a situation like we're talking about right now where so many guys are either A, boring and stale and in some cases not capable of being world champion anymore. I'm talking about, as much as I like Edge and Orton, I would put them in that class. I would put Kane in the quality of, well, he's getting the belt because he's been here 10 years and we have no other ideas at this point. And then you have this group of young guys that are like, man, they could be world champion, but, we don't know how to build them up, so here's the WWE Championship. Go, Miz. Hey, Jack Swagger, take this. It's the World Heavyweight Championship. Go, man, go. Get over.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just, I watched, what I'm doing right now is I've run out of space on my video wall. So I'm trying to condense by taking tapes that maybe I got sent or didn't tape myself that I don't really have any kind of emotional connection on VHS, putting them onto DVD, right? So I watched Clash of the Champions. I forget what number, but it was the last one they did in 1991. And one of the key matches of the night was Sting versus Rick Rude for the U.S. title. And when you hear that match, you think world title. I mean, I do anyway. And the build-up was that Sting was attacked by the world champion Lex Luger. Medusa's tried to seduce him, was dancing in front of him, and Lex Luger clipped his knee. Sting had to go to the hospital, and Sting had to commandeer the ambulance to get back to the arena in time for his match, otherwise he would have lost the U.S. title by forfeit to Rick Rude. Now, he still lost the match, but they put so much meaning on just winning that U.S. title that Sting was willing to forego his own health in order to get back to the arena to desperately try and maintain and retain his championship. And it just seemed to me that that was the secondary belt. That wasn't even the main belt. And there was so much meaning put on it that that was a good memory and a good place for the belts to be at.
Right. And that goes back into something that I've been talking about a lot, where I feel, there doesn't need to be a World Heavyweight title match at every single show, especially on pay-per-view. You don't need to have it at every single show, but you can elevate everything underneath it to a point that is desirable and does serve its purpose as a main event of the show. I think the IC and U.S. titles could be that. I think if we were to use TNA, I think the TV and X Division titles could be that. It's just a matter of promoting it in a way that makes the fans think that this really matters and this is really important. And that's just not the case right now with the current secondary belt.
And I got to say this, and I'm going to leave you guys here in a second. Well, probably about 10 minutes. I have about 5-10 minutes left, so I got to go. But even TNA, if you look at the early stages of TNA, and I know I've probably romanticized the greatness of the early days of TNA more so than I probably should, but if they did one thing right, it's that X Division title, because it wasn't listed as a cruiserweight belt, almost meant as much as the world title. It was able to main event a pay-per-view, and nobody thought second or twice about it. Now, granted, maybe only 30,000, 40,000 people were buying that pay-per-view, but still, it meant something. It was a very important belt in that time frame. And I think we all, a little bit, that were watching it back then, wish it still had the same kind of levity that it did then that it does now, the same kind of meaning and power. Unfortunately, it kind of seems to have dwindled off, and while they try and make it mean something more and more, it just can't capture the same traction it once had.
No. Well, Robbie is not going to help. I'm sorry, that was not a good decision.
And the thing is, he's not a bad worker. He's been working 9 years. I mean, he's been going at it for a while. Mm-hmm. He's just, actually, believe it or not, Robbie E. was trained by a former guest of our show, Kevin Knight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he legitimately is from New Jersey.
I mean, the problem is, we always talk about it, but, the one thing that has to happen, and I'm talking about any title, you can't just have one great storyline and, wow, that belt means something again. You can get it hot, but you have to maintain it with good storylines. Now, I think personally, the little stuff they're doing with Kaz and Jay Lethal has a chance to become a hot storyline. Well, knock on wood and hope that comes to fruition. Like, this is one of those things that people are talking about, like, wow, I really want to see that next Kazarian and Jay Lethal match because I think Lethal's finally going to get his revenge. The stuff Kazarian said about his mother. But even after that feud ends, TNA will have to have, whether it's Kazarian as champion or, Lethal as champion, another good storyline set to go and another good series of matches. And it's the same way with the U.S. title. I mean, right now, the U.S. title is on Bryan Danielson's waist. And the storyline he has right now is the Bellas both want him. And Tyson Kidd is saying, I'm going to be U.S. champion even though he can't beat Mark Henry.
Yeah, I'll give you a perfect example. SmackDown 2009, the Intercontinental title really got elevated after the series of matches between Jericho and Ray. Great feud, great rivalry, great matches. And that elevated it and made it feel like it was something special again. And they continued it for a little bit when Ziggler got into the mix and feuded with Ray, and those matches were really good. Then Morrison got the title from Ray, and he splintered off and started feuding with Ziggler, and then that stuff was pretty good. But then, we'll trace this back to Hell in a Cell when Taker won the belt, and we just got that horrible domino effect where everything just kind of fell to the wayside. But and by the end of the year, when Drew McIntyre won the belt with no build-up and it just went back to being a nothing belt, all of that goodwill from the summer of 2009 had pretty much been squandered.
Absolutely. That is the perfect example that, look, you can get a belt hot again, but it's like anything in life, anything in storyline, where, you could have a guy that comes in and he's Bill Goldberg, and everyone's chanting his name going, Goldberg, and the streak, and all this stuff, and if you don't take care of that talent, you don't take care of that title, it's over. It's going to go back to what it was before it got hot. And, that's the big problem that we have. And that's unfortunately what I think John Morrison, and just kind of bring this all back around again, is going to face. He just had this awesome match with Miz on Monday. And he had this match with Sheamus that people, not WWE people alone, but like the internet people, the quote-unquote smart marks, were saying, well, that's a star-making performance. John Morrison has made it. Well, I don't think so. I don't think John Morrison is going to play a very big role in the WWE main event picture for the next couple weeks. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I'll be surprised to see if I don't even know how long he'll last the Rumble. I could see him, unfortunately, being one of those guys that gets in there, lasts for like 5 minutes, and then gets dumped out by whatever big guy's around.
Here's the problem, and this is nothing against Morrison, because I think we've all been clear that we think he's an amazing talent, and we'll get back to the talk about Tough Enough maybe next week and how he kind of came from that, which, somebody pointed that out to me on Facebook a few weeks ago. You say Miz is a reality guy. Well, Morrison came from reality too, but that's a little bit different. That was more of a wannabe wrestler camp than real world. But anyway,
that's an awful idea.
It worked for the time and getting your eggs in the reality crap basket that they were trying to get. That's what they were trying to do in the early 2000s or whenever that debuted. It worked for then. I don't know how it'll work now. I don't know how it's going to work without Al Snow. I don't know why, but for some reason he made that show better than it was.
We'll go with that interviews with Al Snow. This is a guy that knows wrestling inside out better than maybe any individual on the planet, and I mean, he's a good teacher. That he made that show great because he was kind of like, I don't want to go this far, but he was Mr. Miyagi. He was the teacher. He was the guy that knew it all. And you know what? Early on, one of the kids was like being like disrespectful, kind of stomping off. And like I remember Al like pulled him aside and goes, you know what? I wouldn't take that crap from my 13-year-old son. You think I'm going to take it from you? And I was like, wow. Don't piss off Al Snow.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I don't know why, but I just pictured, when you said Mr. Miyagi, I just pictured Al Snow, like, doing a very offensive Asian accent and going, wax on, wax off.
He dressed up once as a Chinese man when he was European champion. It was like that when he was...
Yeah, I remember that. That was a hilarious run. I love that gimmick.
I remember he came out, and, like, William Regal was on commentary, and, like, Al gave Jerry Lawler a picture of Hong Kong Phooey. And, like, Lawler got transfixed on this thing. It's like, Mr. Regal, you do know that this is the world's most famous crime-fighting dog, right?
Except for Scooby.
Yeah, I guess.
Scooby was bigger, but I don't know if that was crime fighting or ghost catching.
Yeah. But it was really
crime fighting because they were all fake.
Yeah, do you know how you know who the bad guy is in Scooby? It's the only other character in the show except for the original cast.
Or the celebrity guest.
Well, that's how you know who the bad guy is in SVU. The celebrity guest star. It's always the celebrity guest star. Oh, look, it's Cousin Larry from...
In Scooby-Doo, they would have celebrity guest stars that would help them on the case. So it's like, it's the one character
Kiss
that's
one time, and the most famous, I think, would be the Harlem Globetrotters.
Right, and Scott Knotts. Batman and Robin.
Oh, man. All right, guys, I'm going to run. I'm going to try and get something set up for next week, too. I really enjoyed getting back to the interviews, though. That was a cool treat to get back to the interviews.
All right. Fun stuff, man.
All right. See you guys in just a few days. And for anybody else out there, check us out on WrestlingEpicenter.com. Check out the forums and check us out on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
All right. I'll see you guys next week, and these guys will be with you for the rest of the show.
All righty. All right, and that was James Walsh, our boss here at the Wrestling Epicenter. Nick, you and I have the rest of the show to talk about whatever the hell we want.
Well, I think we should talk about the pay-per-view that is this weekend, not last weekend like you thought it was. That would, of course, be TNA Genesis, the first pay-per-view offering of the new year. And, of course, pay-per-view that, kind of goes something Patrick has been talking about, and that's there is no world title match on this pay-per-view.
Yes, and I know, because I can see the shitstorm coming. I just know TNA is going to catch shit for that, and I just know it. And that's exactly what's going to happen, and they're going to get called a shit second-rate company for not having a world title match on their pay-per-view and whatever, and it's going to happen. You're going to hear it. So, and some people are already saying it.
Patrick, I'll say this. As a TNA fan, an ardent TNA supporter, TNA could put on its best show ever, and somebody could wear a strange colored pair of tights, and people will get shit and say, well, that just shows how fucking stupid TNA is, because what the hell were they thinking letting AJ Styles wear green tights? He looked like a fucking leprechaun. What a joke this company is. It doesn't matter. TNA's best stuff gets criticized. I had an idiot try to explain to me why the WWE Tag Team title picture is better than TNA's, because the WWE Tag Team picture is a comedy break.
So wait, it's better because it's a comedy break?
This is what this guy said to me. He said, well, with TNA, you see these matches that are too long, you know how it works, nobody's going to win until the hot tag is made, yada, yada, yada. He goes, with at least Santino and Kozlov, you're laughing the whole time.
First of all, no, I'm not. They're not funny. Santino could be funny if his material was better, but no,
it was better.
I'm sorry. There's no way you could argue that.
Oh, no, I mean, somebody even said this. I actually heard someone say this. Somebody said to me that Heath Slater and Justin Gabriel make the Machine Guns look like first-year trainees.
Yeah, sure they do. I'm still waiting because Justin Gabriel was one of those guys that kind of got picked up as the Internet's baby. And they really seem to like him because he can do a 450. I'm still waiting for him to do something more impressive than a 450. It seems like he's just got the one move, and that's it.
Yeah, well, I think he got picked up as being the Internet's baby because Matt Hardy, started saying he was WWE's answer to AJ Styles. Which I kind of want to know what AJ Styles matches Matt Hardy was watching.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, it's like, he might be good, I don't know, but based on what I've seen, he's very ordinary except for the one spot. He's got the 450, and that's it. I'm thinking, it's like, why didn't you put Evan Bourne in that spot, you know? Because he's got a cool finisher, but he's got everything else in between. Right. I mean, I kind of agree with you. I mean, Justin Gabriel is basically a boring version of Evan Bourne. Even kind of down to the haircut. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we got Genesis coming up, and I'll say it right now. World title match, there will be none on the show by all indications, and I am completely 100% fine with that because, and to compare it to the Royal Rumble, we got Edge and Ziggler. Why? Right. There's no development. There's no feud. It feels rushed. It feels lazy because they didn't build up Ziggler. It feels like they rushed it to this pay-per-view just for the sake of having a world title match on the pay-per-view. I'm thinking, look, I'd rather have you nurture and develop your feuds a little bit and then give us the payoff after whetting our appetite a little bit rather than just rushing it to fill a quota, which is what it feels like. Exactly. You know, this is the match the main event, from what I understand, will be Matt Morgan versus Mr. Anderson for a shot at Jeff Hardy's world title. And I say this, we're getting a build. Now it's like, oh wow, this belt you actually have to earn your shot at it. You know, it's not just, okay, your turn. These guys have actually got to go out there and win. I mean, it puts emphasis on winning again, which is something we've talked about a lot that has sadly gone away from wrestling in general. And, you know, we also have this, I think, pretty good storyline that they're doing with Mr. Anderson where, you know, look, Jeff Hardy and he had a relationship on screen for most of last year. You know, Hardy turned on him, cost him the world title. Then Hardy gives him a concussion. Anderson just wants to get back in the ring and get his revenge on Hardy. And to do that now, he's got to beat Matt Morgan. And Morgan's kind of like, well, look, I don't want to hurt this guy that has a concussion, but I can't turn my back on the opportunity to be world champion. I was this close 2 times already. I know that if I get my hands on Hardy again, I can beat him finally. So I mean, we have that storyline, you know, and I keep saying this. The match between Hardy and Anderson should be built up to something great because there's a lot of potential there. So, I mean, I agree with you. I'm fine with there not being a world title match. And personally, if I were the WWE, if I were in charge of WWE Creative, I wouldn't have there be world title matches at the Rumble because we're going to have the Rumble anyway. We got the big 30-man over the top rope battle royal that usually does pretty damn well, and it's a hell of a lot of fun to watch. Let's enjoy that. We don't have to have the world champions work. We can do like an interview where we ask Edge, who do you think will win the Rumble? And is there anyone in there you're kind of hoping would come after you? Yeah, exactly. Or if they wanted to do Ziggler and Edge, couldn't you have at least held off until February? Give it, because at this rate, it's only going to get like a week or two of build-up. Right, you know, and there's stuff you can do. I mean, so I mean, we're fine with there not being a world title match. Personally, I say, you know, let this happen, and I'm kind of hoping that this storyline works, and maybe TNA says, okay, you know what, there was a difference and a better build and a better story by not going for another world title match right away. Personally, I would be fine if this became something of a trend. And I'm not saying I'm not saying it has to be 1 month on, 1 month off, but
every once in a while, why not, have the world champion out of, not on the match? Because, as somebody pointed out, it makes it more special when we actually see the world title on the line.
Yeah, and that's something, there are no special attractions anymore. Going back to Miz, he defended the title on TV in a TLC match against Lawler. He had a pay-per-view match with Orton, and he's already had another TV match with John Morrison. You've pretty much blown your load on this guy.
Right. I remember,
kind of like him defending the title is not an attraction.
Right. I remember on Monday, Cole opened the show with, and tonight, ladies and gentlemen, a rare WWE title match. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? The week Miz won the world title, Randy Orton defended the belt against Barrett, and then Miz cashed in Money in the Bank. Technically, that's 2. Then we have the TLC, that's 3. This is Miz's 4th title match on Raw, basically.
Yeah, well, that's typical WWE. They say something and they expect us to buy it.
Yeah. All right, well, as for a pick for the Anderson-Morgan match, getting back to that, I think this can be a good match. I like both guys. I like the storylines they're doing. If I have to pick a winner, I'm going to go with Anderson because I think the story's better, and we've already seen 2 Matt Morgan title matches with Jeff Hardy, and I like Matt Morgan, but he doesn't really seem to have that great a chemistry with Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, I agree. I think Anderson's going to get the win here. I think it's just the more interesting matchup. If they gave it to Morgan again, I feel like you'd run the risk of getting repetitive. So, yeah, I'd say give it to Anderson. Right.
Now, another match in this card is the TNA World Tag Team Championship match. It's going to be Beer Money versus Motor City Machine Guns. If you have never seen these 2 teams wrestle, ladies and gentlemen, buy this pay-per-view because you may see the best tag team match you have seen in so long. These 2 guys, these 4 men, whenever they wrestle, it just seems like they can do no wrong. I love watching these guys work. It's a clash of the Titans. It's the 2 best teams in the division. It's like back in the day in the NBA when the Lakers would play the Celtics and you have Bird and Magic. It's just going to be a great match, and there's a great history there. All the great matches they have last year. Go back and listen to our awards from last week. It seemed like every other sentence was about how great Beer Money and the Guns are. So,
it was my favorite thing of 2010 without question. I think that these – I said it before. I said it a couple weeks ago. Give them the main event spot. I think Anderson and Morgan, their storyline is going to be the focus of the pay-per-view. But once people have ordered the pay-per-view or once the show starts, you can get away with that not being the main event and give it to, what I think will wind up being the best match on the show, and that'll be Guns and Beer Money. I say give them the final slot and just let them tear it up.
It would go back to what they did at Unbreakable a couple of years ago where I think it was Rhino and Raven was the world title match, and they were even on the poster. But that was but the main event was that amazing AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe 3-way. So,
exactly.
I say go with that. And you know what? Leave people with such a great impression. It would help elevate the tag titles a little. If, the last image people saw on that pay-per-view were the new tag team champions, or the current or the retaining tag team champions celebrating. As for a pick, I think they're kind of doing the thing where Immortal's going to sweep the belt. So I see Beer Money winning these belts. I think it's going to be probably the beer bottle or the spit or just the run in. Beer Money's going to get the belts back this pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think so. They're going to do that heel sweep the belts type of storyline that we've seen before, which to me is kind of, I've seen that 100 times. But, I don't think anybody would have a problem with Beer Money holding the tag belts. I think they're going to get them, and I'm totally fine with that. I think these 2 teams will have an excellent match, and here's hoping for the best.
All right, now let's get the bad out of the way, Patrick. Let's just get rid of the bad. It's like ripping off a bandage. Brother Ray, or I guess now Bully Ray, versus Brother Devon. This match is going to suck. This match is awful. I don't know why these guys are still on contract. Why are you giving them singles pushes? TNA, how can you do this to me? I don't care who wins. I'm not even going to make a pick. This is a horrible idea. I guess this is the opportunity for you to take a shit during the show.
Exactly, and that'll be its purpose. It'll be it'll be a bathroom break match, because I can't see anybody really giving a shit. They might take a shit while they're in the bathroom, but they won't give a shit. And I just do not care. I mean, they've never worked as singles guys. They're stale as a tag team. There is nothing left for them to do. I'm sorry. It's over. It's time to go. And they need to go. I'm sorry. And if this match goes longer than 5 minutes, then I will probably lose my mind.
I'm going to pull a Kane and Undertaker, something I usually root for during a Kane and Undertaker match. I'm going to hope, like, the lighting rig falls, like, in the ring and takes them both out.
Yes, we want injuries.
Yes. We want career-ending injuries. Look, I'm sorry. Team 3D, you had one more match with the machine guns. You should have just said, wow, we're never going to top that again. Goodbye. And I don't know, go back to training Jesse Neal. Please, go away.
Yes. So I'm hoping that this is the end of them both. But, I hoped that before.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, anyway, getting back to something that's good, it's going to be the X Division Championship match, not math. It's going to be Jay Lethal defending the title against Frankie Kazarian. You know what? There's kind of a quick build to this. I mean, they did a kind of little heater segment where Kazarian came out and he, talked about Lethal's mother, and I think it was pretty offensive about her. And then Lethal ran out, and Kazarian cracked him with the Tanya Harding special, and I think this will be a good match. There's not a whole lot of build to it. I could see Kazarian winning it. I definitely see Kazarian winning it, and maybe they do a rematch next month. I think, we're going to see the heel sweep, at least with the tag and X Division titles. I like Lethal, but, I think it's kind of, unfortunately, like his destiny to just be a transitional champion in the X Division, more or less.
Yeah, I agree. I think the fact that they've kind of given Kaz a bit of a revamp, they changed his look, they've added, models to come out and walk with him. It just seems like that they're going to try and reestablish him as the top of the X Division. And I think these two could have a really good match. People have been kind of down on the X Division lately, what with Robbie E. Again, Robbie E's not a bad worker, but I just don't like this gimmick and I don't like the character. And I don't think his in-ring style really fit the X Division anyway. It's kind of like the same criticism that some people had about Sonny Siaki back in the day. It's like, yeah, he's not a bad worker, but X Division champion, really? The Extreme Division? All right. But, yeah, I think this is a chance to kind of go ahead.
I got to say this. If they're going to have Kazarian come out with women, he has a very beautiful woman that knows how to work. I'm just saying, TNA.
Yeah. But, I think Kaz is going to win the belt here, and I think that these two could have a very good match. Again, the title matches for this show are very good. Right.
I agree with you. I think this is going to be a good match, and it kind of goes back to what I said earlier in the show. This could be the start of building something good for the X Division. But, it's way too soon to kind of predict that no matter what happens. I'm really looking forward to this. I enjoy Kaz as a worker especially. I'm really shocked that he's never gotten a little bit higher in TNA, where I guess part of that is just that timing didn't work out. I think kind of the best chance to do that was when TNA was still a much younger company and certain guys hadn't shown up yet. And I don't just mean that shot at Hogan, but I mean kind of like when other guys started showing up, you kind of knew that guys like Kazarian weren't going to go any higher. But I like Kazarian. I really want to see him win the X Division title, especially because outside of like that 1 month reign he had between lockdown and what was it? I'm blanking on the pay-per-view, but he hasn't had the X Division title in a long time, except for like that one reign because of the volcano.
Yeah, right. It's like he probably wasn't even supposed to win it. Exactly. I think this will be really good. There's not much to say. It'll just be a really good match.
Yeah. All right. And we have got one match that plug your ears if you don't want to hear the spoilers for this week.
All right.
Plug your ears. It will be the return of Kurt Angle. He will take part in an MMA exhibition versus Jeff Jarrett. Now, I love these two when they wrestle each other. I think they had one of the best matches. I think they've had two great matches in the past. I like what they've been doing with Jarrett in the MMA exhibition. I just wish they would have done it sooner so they could have gotten, like, the hype started that Kurt Angle is back. You know, so that's really my only complaint.
Yeah, it'll be nice to have Kurt Angle back on pay-per-view. That'll be cool. I don't think that this match with Jeff is going to come anywhere near close to the matches that they had a couple years ago. Like 2 years ago at Genesis, they had one of the best matches in TNA history. I'm not kidding. It was that good. And I don't think they'll be able to match that this time around. I don't think the build-up is strong. And I think the gimmick is going to somewhat hinder that. But I expect Angle to go out there and destroy Jarrett. Like, this will be kind of like a Kane Undertaker situation from WrestleMania 20, where it won't be a complete 100% squash, but it'll be kind of a reintroduction of Kurt Angle. So Angle's going to get the win here, and I reintroduce him, and yeah, and it'll be fine.
Yeah. Honestly, I disagree with you, though. I think Jarrett will win this match somehow. I think he'll do something kind of tricky, and we'll see like a rematch next month, but I think it will be a nice reintroduction. What I do expect to happen will probably be Angle will go out there and he'll throw Jarrett around like a rag doll and like stretch him, all over the place, and then like Gunner and Murphy will, interfere, and that will allow Jeff to get the pin or like the fake submission, and then they'll carry him out on their shoulders like he's GSP having just beat Josh Koscheck.
Uh-huh.
But like I said, I don't think it will match what they've done in the past, but I do love Kurt Angle and Jeff Jarrett, and they've had some good matches in the past, so I'm looking forward to this one. Another match on this card will be the TNA Knockouts Championship. It will be Mickie James challenging Madison Rayne. It had a nice little story to this where Mickie had to go through Tara to get to Madison. I think it's going to be a good match. I'm going to pick Mickie to win the belt, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, just put the belt on Mickie. At this point, really, just put the belt on Mickie. I don't think anybody will complain. I think Mickie is by far the best part of the Knockouts division right now. And it's like, if you're going to have a Knockouts division, might as well put it on the best part of it. So, yeah, just give the belt to Mickie.
Yeah, I'd be okay with Madison retaining and them holding off Mickey's victory for another date, because I think this show will feature a lot of title changes, and unfortunately I could see, if Mickie does win it, then, that's not the thing they'll focus on at all. Oh, yeah, he's the Knockout Champion, but that will be after they make a big deal out of everything else that happened at the day. I mean, I actually be okay with Madison retaining it, but I do think Mickie will win.
All right, cool.
All right, and we've got a match, Rob Van Dam versus Jeff Hardy's chosen wrestler. The stipulation is that if Rob wins, he finally gets a shot at Jeff Hardy. I guess I'm asking, Patrick, has it been 90 days since Matt Hardy got released? Because that would be kind of like my first suspect for who this mystery guy is.
I think I asked that question to somebody else, and they said the 90 days would not be up by the time Genesis, but we'll see. If it's Matt Hardy, I guess that'd be kind of a cool surprise. I have no idea who the mystery opponent is going to be. It might just be something like, okay, I'm going to make you fight Abyss and Rob Terry in a handicap match. Yeah. And you got to go through that, or something ridiculous like that, but who knows? Again, I like that they're doing a slow build-up for RVD and Jeff Hardy. I'm not even, I'm not the biggest Jeff Hardy fan in the world, but if you want that match to mean something, it's good to kind of keep the build-up going and nurture it for a while, instead of, the standard norm to do this would be, okay, Hardy hit RVD at the end of Bound for Glory. That'll be your turning point main event. But no, they're actually trying to give some time and growth and development to this, and I actually really like that. I will pick RVD to win. I think he'll win, and then Hardy will find some way to weasel out of having to face him.
Yeah. I agree with you. I like the slow build that they're doing with this, because you have the backstory of these two guys being friends, and then, what Jeff Hardy sending Abyss after RVD and what Abyss did to him. And Jeff Hardy now has the belt RVD never lost. And we had them in a main event we had them in an 8-man tag on Impact a few weeks ago, and all Hardy did in that match was run from RVD.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I like it.
It works so well. I mean, that story works so well because it goes back to their WWE days where Hardy could never beat Rob Van Dam. All the matches they had together, and Hardy just could not beat him. This goes back to 2001 when they were feuding over the Hardcore title, and Rob Van Dam kicked his ass. And Hardy became bitter and jealous and all that stuff, and he finally said, you know what, the only way I'm going to win the world title in TNA is if Rob Van Dam's not in the picture. And I think that story works very well, and I think they could do a lot more with it besides just rushing it, rushing the match to the next pay-per-view.
Yeah. See, I think RVD will win, but if they're going, part of me would like them to hold off on that match until, like, Lockdown, and then you could build it up as 1 year ago, Rob Van Dam won the TNA World title. Go through all that, all the build, and then, like, that's your Lockdown main event. I could see them doing something where RVD wins, but he's still, like, beaten down. Hardy's music plays, and Hardy comes out and just puts, like, a foot on him. That 1, 2, 3, and, Hardy can go, sorry, Rob, looks like you just lost your opportunity.
Yeah, they could do something like that, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things they could do with this, and they even have it, TNA did it themselves. The night RVD won the title, he had to go through Hardy to do it, and he beat Hardy again. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to play off of here, and a lot of things that they could do to service a long-term build-up rather than, the stuff I've talked about, just rushing a title match for the sake of having a world title match on a pay-per-view.
Right. And then we have one more match. This is a match I'm really looking forward to because I loved it so much last month. It will be Doug Williams versus AJ Styles for the TNA television title. And the big stipulation is that if AJ loses, he's out of Immortal. He's out of Fortune. Look, if you saw the match last month, I don't have to explain to you why this rematch should be great. I mean, you just have two of the best, wrestlers in the world going at it for a belt.
This is another one that could main event, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And you know what? I'm going to actually go against Ty here. I'm going to pick Doug Williams to retain, and then AJ is going to get, beaten up by, Immortal, and then you're going to have kind of this limbo with AJ Styles. Okay, what happens now? Is he a babyface again? Is he going to try to get back into Immortal? I think they can kind of do a situation with Doug Williams where it's oh, wow, he's kind of like the one guy that's been able to hold off Immortal, because he kind of knows their secrets from being a member of it.
Yeah, I've always had these ideas about how AJ could turn face again and go against Immortal, and I could see something like where AJ was kind of Flair's chosen boy, his chosen one, and then Flair changes his mind. You know what? Kazarian's better, and that could be a big feud that they could do, where Kazarian kind of takes AJ's place as the crown jewel of Fortune or something along those lines. We'll see what happens. I'm going to pick AJ to win the title because I just don't see them. I don't know. I don't think they'll pull the trigger on that right away. But, again, we'll see. We'll see how it all goes down.
Yeah, well, I think if they're going to do it, this is a good place to do it. I hate to say it, but, it's been a while since AJ was a babyface, too. I mean, I think he actually turned last year at Genesis, and I know that there should not be a clock on turns he's been a heel a year, turning babyface. He's been a babyface a year, turning heel. What I'm saying is, there's a good opportunity here, and I could see it where AJ and Williams give this amazing wrestling match, and AJ comes so close, and then, do what you said, have, Immortal pick, Kazarian kind of over him, and, and that would also kind of help what we talked about earlier, where it's AJ versus Cash for the X Division title could be maybe the best X Division title matches we've seen since the AJ Joe Daniels days.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, yeah, Genesis, not a bad card.
The soft card to start the year, But I think last one was pretty good, too. I mean, TNA's put on some pretty good from the wrestling aspect cards. There needs to be some better things with the build-up. I'll say it again, Jeff Jarrett's Kurt Angle's match, I wish they would have done what they're going to do a little bit sooner. just because I think there was kind of, you could get more hype out of that than, 1 week.
Yeah, I think they're going to do, again, spoilers for Impact. I think what they're going to do is they're going to have Kurt Angle come out during one of Jeff Jarrett's MMA segments and say, I'm going to challenge you to a match at Genesis. They probably should have done that 3-4 weeks ago, and then have Jarrett do all these things to make it seem like he's preparing himself for Kurt.
Right. Well, I think part of it is that there is an explanation with it where Jarrett is holding Angle saying, I'll retire if I don't win the world title at Bound for Glory over his head. And, he's trying to hold Kurt, he's saying, well, Kurt, you made it, Kurt, that's a contract, that's a verbal contract or something. And, now it's because right now the idea is this is purely an exhibition. That's Kurt's way back in. I mean, there was a little segment on Impact, last week where, Jeff Jarrett was explaining the new rules of his MMA exhibition, but we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, all right, but yeah, Genesis, I've got to say, it doesn't look like, the title matches especially, it looks like a pretty solid card.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what?
No world title match.
Yeah. I see a lot of good embers in the fire for TNA right now. Where, is this
maybe it's they've got a chance to put up a foundation and become a really strong show again, but we'll see if they actually follow through on that.
Yeah, definitely. That's the problem. I will say this. I like there are little signs I see that I really like. I'll use kind of the reunion of the British Invasion as a good example, where a couple of weeks ago you had Doug Williams backstage being kind of walking on the run for an interview, and he just happened to run into Brutus Magnus, and, they were kind of hey, look, if you ever need me, just call. And then, last week, when Williams was in a match, Magnus was hey, look, you've always been there for me, tonight you have a match, I'm going to be there with you. Which, I kind of like that it was a little logical thing. They planted the seed before they actually did it. It wasn't just randomly Magnus showed up again and said, hey, Doug, let's just reunite.
Speaking of returns, if I know this guy's a big internet favorite, and he's one of my favorites too. If you're a big fan of Desmond Wolfe, Nigel McGuinness, he makes his return this week on Impact.
Yes, he does. So I'm excited about that. I'm hoping that he can get going. In a way. We'll see what happens. Because when he came into TNA, he was so hot, and there have been a couple of problems since then where he's kind of faded out of the original. Because, to be fair, he started off almost like Sheamus, where his first feud was with Kurt Angle. When you kind of start up there, you're at the top of the mountain in TNA.
Yeah, it's kind of that's almost as big as being world champion.
Yeah. So that's basically that's Genesis. I think it's definitely one of those cards that I would recommend people to buy, or go in with your friends and have a little TNA viewing party. Because hey, there's no football this weekend. There's no Sunday night game, I don't think so.
Is there? I don't know. I'm going to a couple playoff parties, so I guess I'll find out. But yeah, I'll say this right now. Again, I hate to keep driving this point in like a goddamn jackhammer, but this right here looks like a pretty solid card to me, and it has no world title match, and I think it's probably worth checking out. Again, got 3 really strong title matches, and it's just a pretty solid card all around, and I think it might be TNA's most worthwhile card in quite a while.
Right there. Like I said, there are a lot of embers in the fire here that, if done right and they maintain, could really catch on, and we could get some of the best data out of TNA that we've seen in a long time. That's what I want to see. And I'm hopeful. Fingers are crossed. There's a lot. There's potential here, and I'm gonna have a lot of fun watching this show this Sunday and seeing how it plays out.
All right, sounds good to me. Now, we're actually close to running out of time here, but one thing that I want to ask you about it, because I haven't heard all the details yet. I'm hearing that Paul Orndorff is not in the best of health right now.
Yes. Paul Orndorff did an interview with the Sirius satellite show Busted Open, which is a wrestling-related show. And unfortunately, Mr. Wonderful disclosed that he has been diagnosed with cancer.
And that's really tough news to hear, because when I was a kid, Paul Orndorff was one of my favorites, because I kind of saw him as he was a physical rival to Hulk Hogan, and that was so he was kind of like the Bizarro to Hogan's Superman, and I really liked Orndorff as a performer. Great look, and just a great all-around wrestler. He was a lot of fun to watch, and it's always sad to hear one of your favorites not doing real well and not in the best of health. So I wish Paul Orndorff the best of luck. I hope everything goes well for him. Cancer is never a fun thing to deal with, and we here at the Wrestling Epicenter do send our condolences and our best wishes to Paul Orndorff and his friends and family.
Yes, and this is kind of a personal note for me. I want to also extend my condolences to Dr. Vicky Casper's family. She was the vice principal at my high school. Unfortunately, today she was shot by a student that re-entered the school, shot her and the current principal, who was not the principal when I went there. Fortunately, and I hate to say it like this, but they were the only two that were they were the only two shooting victims. My brother, who still attends the school, is fine, as is pretty much every other student. But I just want to extend my condolences to her family. I know they're probably not listening, but I just want to get that out there, and I just want to say to everyone, stay safe, God bless, because, this past couple of weeks I've been miserable about a bunch of stuff that didn't really matter. Nebraska losing a bowl game, and my St. Louis Rams getting eliminated from the playoffs. And today it really got all in perspective when I heard there was a shooting at a place that I went to for 4 years that all my siblings have gone to. Like I said, my little brother Matt still attends that school. And, I just want to say that that's one of those things that really puts things in perspective. And, I'm not doing this to be mean or try to be, arrogant, but, just everyone tonight hug your family, because this kind of stuff can happen out here in Omaha, Nebraska. It's really scary. I don't want to think what's going on.
It can happen anywhere. I remember, I live in Maryland, in the Virginia Tech shooting, not too far away from me, and these kind of things happen, and they seem to spring up completely at random, so you never know. These kind of horrible things can happen overnight, and you just, it's impossible to deal with once you hear it. So yeah, absolutely.
Right. I hate to end the show on such a downer, but I just wanted to say that, and obviously extend my condolences. The good news is we're still here, and we'll be back next week with a review of Genesis. We'll see if it was half as good as we were hoping it was, and and I'm thinking the Rumble's next weekend. So we'll probably, I'm not sure. We might have to fit in a preview for the Rumble, and James is always working on an interview. I want to again thank Lance Hoyt. A really good interview we got out of him. He's really one of those guys hoping he gets another chance somewhere, whether that's TNA, whether that's ROH, whether that's WWE, whether that's Japan. It just doesn't work out for the guy.
Yes, absolutely. Great interview with Lance Hoyt, and thank you so much to him for coming on with us tonight. Thank you to James for setting it up and staying on the show with us throughout the interview and for the early bits of our discussion. And thank you all for listening to us this week, and hope you all continue to listen to us as we'll try and get future interviews for you. I know James is working on a few right now that will hopefully be nice surprises for all of you. And with that, for Nick Knoll, I am Patrick Kelly saying good night, everybody.